Taking a turn here, so beyond this rock retaining wall, an airport that I'm going to talk about in a moment, you're going to see these strange looking white egg shapes, the structure composed of white egg shapes a little bit further out. So it looks a little bit odd. It's actually very important to Boston Harbor. Before I tell you why, I want you to look at our waters, because you will notice that they're very clean, and we're really particularly proud of that, because that was not always true. Our waters, frankly, used to be quite filthy. One of the reasons why was because they pumped sewage into the water. There was no good sewage system. The idea was that the sewage was just going to go out into the ocean. They wouldn't have to worry about it, but that didn't happen. It just sat here. They made Boston Harbor pretty dirty. And the people of Boston were pretty mad. They actually sued their own city. And so this structure was built. It's part of the sewage system in Boston. It's called the Deer Island Sewage Treatment Plant. In fact, those white egg shapes, so they pump in sewage from 43 different communities. Basically what they do is they separate the liquids from the solids. Liquids are turned into water that is clean enough to drink, pumped out a couple miles out into the ocean. Solids, oddly enough, are turned into fertilizer pellets. They're shipped to Florida to grow oranges. So the next time you're going to have a nice juicy Florida orange, you can remember that you have the good people of Boston to thank for that. Now thinking about it, that may have paused right now during our coronavirus epidemic, but that is usually what happens to those. So we have been supplying Florida with oranges for quite some time now. And now, as you may have imagined, we're passing an airport. This is Logan International Airport. First thing I want to point out is this long rock retaining wall. Like I said, whenever you see a rock retaining wall, that's going to tell you man-made land. Logan Airport is all man-made. It's on 2,400 acres of it. It's the 17th busiest airport in the country. Generates about $7 billion a year. A plane departs or lands to or from Logan Airport about every 90 seconds. So it's a very busy airport. And now we're passing actually another set of those triangular vents. So right now we are actually going over the Ted Williams Tunnel. We are also passing this brick building with the lighthouse-looking structure attached. So this is the Hyatt Regency. And when this was originally constructed, it confused a lot of ship captains because that looks a little bit too much like a lighthouse, and there is a revolving light at the top. So ship captains were navigating their ship based on this, what is actually a hotel and an elevator shaft, so they had to darken the windows. That's not confuse them. Every wave to the sailboat. It's a good day to sail. Now we're about to pass a couple of fishing piers and fishing wharves. So a little bit further inland is the former site of Old Immigration Hall. So around the 1840s, a lot of Irish immigrants came to Boston. One of the reasons why a lot of them came to Boston as opposed to New York is because Boston is actually 2 days closer to Ireland by boat than New York is. So when they got here, they would have registered at Old Immigration Hall and climbed the golden stairs, which were not actually golden, but they're called that because America's a place of golden opportunities. They would go down Marginal Street, take the penny ferry across the harbor to Boston proper, and they try to find work. Unfortunately, they were met with many signs on shops that said NINA, N-I-N-A, and this stood for No Irish Need Apply. Well, Boston is a lot better than that today. We actually really beat the system there. We have the second largest population of Irish people in the world, only second to Ireland herself. If you listen to the last names of a lot of people in Boston, you'll find that they are very Irish. get a little bit closer to this Nantucket Lightship, this beautiful red ship here. So it was used as a ship off the coast of Nantucket, which is an island off the coast of Massachusetts. And it was used to give light to the ships that were coming, because one of the things about Nantucket is it has these shoals, meaning very, sorry, this is my first tour in a while, very shallow water, so they wanted to make sure that the ships were not going to run aground coming to and from the island and to and from New York. And so they placed 3 of these ships around the island to prevent that from happening. Now the sailors on these ships, they would work for 3 weeks on a ship, then they would take 3 weeks off. As you can imagine, being on a ship for 3 weeks is kind of, you need something to do. You need some type of hobby. So they started basket weaving. And this is how they get the Nantucket Lightship baskets. These are world famous baskets that are hand weaved by the sailors. If you have one of these original Lightship baskets, you have quite a gem on your hand. One basket can cost upwards of $20,000. Now we're about to pass Piers Park. So you'll notice at the end of Piers Park, there's a monument, kind of looks like a spaceship. So this commemorates Donald McKay. He was a famous master shipbuilder in Boston. I'm going to talk a little bit more about him as we get a little bit further into our tour. I did just want to mention his monument. And Piers Park is called that to commemorate many of the profitable piers here in Boston, but it's actually a wharf. It's a good place to walk around. Speaking of piers, we're about to pass a couple of abandoned piers here. As you can see, they're kind of falling down, kind of at the end of their life. But I like to point out these piers on my tours because they were very important, very profitable piers in their heyday. Imagine hundreds of people around here, lots of ships around here, sorry, lots of things happening, lots and lots of hustle and bustle. That's what these piers saw in their heyday. And today, they stand here as a testament to the declining shipping industry in Boston. Now we're passing the Caledonia. This ship has been moving around Boston for quite some time. We don't really know a lot about it, but we do know that it is on sale for about $1.5 million.
No? We're refurbishing it as a restaurant.
They are?
Yeah.
I could be seeing with another ship. Isn't there another ship that was over there?
Yeah. They moved it over here.
Okay, so my boss is saying they're refurbishing it as a restaurant. I did not know that. That'll be a cool restaurant to go on. Anyway, continuing. Now we are passing these 3 concrete blocks that are out onto the harbor. So they don't look like much, but this is the remains of the old East Boston penny ferry. It's the longest continuously running ferry in the country. Now when it was running, it was only 1 penny to get on board for that whole 300 years. It was actually running for about 300 years. It was about 1 penny, but at some point the owners thought we could make a little bit more money from this, and so they raised the fare to a